Hey guys, how's it going? Lagro here. So today we're gonna talk about making currency in Path of Exile. And before you start making currency in Path of Exile, you gotta pray to the RNGesus, pray for your Exalts to drop, or you're not gonna make any currency. So that's tip number one. Okay, so I prayed for the RNG gods for you. You gotta sub to the channel. Okay, here comes my top 10 tips of how to make currency in Path of Exile. Enjoy. Number 10. Chaos Orb recipe. This is a good way to make some early currency, and this method will never decrease in value, so you will always make the same amount of currency every time you do it, all throughout the league. I would recommend doing this for the first couple of days, maybe 3 to 4 days at max. Then it's going to be detrimental to your currency gains, and you might squeeze this in a bit some more with the other methods I'm going to show you. So the recipe for making the chaos recipe is one rare item of each item slot. So you got 2 rings, an amulet, gloves, body armor, helmet, belt, boots, and a 2-handed weapon or 2 one-handed weapons. So you see, it will give us 1 chaos orb, or 2 one-handed weapons will also give us a chaos orb. It will give us 1 chaos orb when the item level is between 60 and 74, and the items are identified. If these were unidentified items, we would get 2 chaos orbs. However, with the upcoming methods I'll show you, it's not worth selling unidentified items. If we were instead to have all items above item level 75, so we change the belt to a belt that's 79, and a pair of boots that's 79 as well, we'll get 1 regal orb instead. So doing it this way, you can choose what currency is worth the most in the early stages. If you have 75 plus items, that's into yellow maps, so you're not gonna have that luck on the first day or stuff. So I would do it with just to get the chaos orb. Number 9, bulk tab selling. So this method really works well with the chaos orb recipe, and in this method we drop all our items into a stash tab, a quad tab that we set for a certain price that we are willing to sell items for. On league start I usually set this to between 5 and 3 chaos orbs, and I drop every rare item I find into this. Sometimes you don't sell any items, sometimes you sell a couple of them, but I don't look at the items before I put them in here, and that is because I don't want to waste time on looking on every item. I look at them if they sell, and if the item doesn't sell, after a couple of hours you can lower it to 1 chaos orb, or you can do the chaos orb recipe. So you pick out your 2 rings, 1 amulet, so on from this tab, and then you turn it in for the chaos orb recipe. There is a lot of items that you think are never gonna sell, but they actually sell if you put them in one of these tabs. Later in the league, I would increase this chaos orb, because chaos orbs are worth a lot in the beginning. So getting a couple of extra 3, 4, 5 chaos orbs for 1 item that you don't think is gonna sell is gonna make a huge difference for your coming investments. Later in the league, 2, 3 chaos orbs, that's not even worth going back to town to sell an item for. So by then I have my stash tab set at 15 chaos orbs instead, or 10 chaos orbs after a couple of hours. And then you're not even doing the chaos orb recipe either, you're just selling everything and getting alterations and alteration shards instead. So you'll be surprised how much money you can actually make by doing this method. Number 8, prophecy farming. So after you kill the goat in Act 1, you can start doing prophecies, or getting prophecies from Navali. And you can make a lot of money if you invest some time into learning which prophecy you should block. So say you have the scout, you can't get another the scout, no matter how many times you try, you can't get another the scout. So if you learn what prophecies you don't want to have, you can block like 3, and then you increase the chance of you getting good ones like Plague of Rats. That's always gonna sell, because that's increasing monsters in a map, and people really want to use these on their high tier maps. If you get the quest chains to level 5, people want to buy those to get keys for the Pale Court, where you get multi-modding crafting recipe. That's a really good one to get as well. And then there's also the fated unique ones, and a lot of them can be really, really expensive. And even the more common one can be expensive in the beginning of a league. I'm not that in depth in the prophecy farming thing, so I'll link a couple of YouTube guides in the description where more knowledgeable people about this talks about prophecy farming and prophecy blocking. Number 7, staying on the prophecy train. So people are lazy, and a good way to make money early and late game in the league is buying prophecies that upgrade uniques into fated uniques. So say for example Fire and Ice upgrades Rim Sorrow into Rim Burn, and people pay more for the Rim Burn than they do for the gloves and the prophecy combined. For example, in last league, which was Blight, you could pay 10 Chaos Orbs for Vision of Ice and Fire. You could upgrade Heat Shiver, or you could buy Heat Shiver for 1 Alchemy Orb, and you can upgrade these two into Frost Ferno, which were around 30 to 40 Chaos Orbs uncorrupted. So that's 11 Chaos, basically 11 Chaos investment and 30 Chaos return at minimum. Same thing goes with Dishonorable Death and Hero's Bite, where you upgrade Hero's Bite into Hero's Demise. I think this is going to be a good one for next league, since it's going to be, hopefully it will be a bow league, even though the manifest showed otherwise. And another example is the Servant's Heart, which upgrades a Stormcloud into the Tempest, which is a really good leveling bow. However, here, also look out for when you're buying a Stormcloud, try to buy a Stormcloud with really high increased attack speed. Because if you have a Stormcloud with a 50% attack speed and you use the Prophecy to upgrade it into the Tempest is also going to have 50% increased attack speed. So that's a really good way to get a max rolled the Tempest. Number 6, boss farming. This can be a really good way to make currency if you're enjoying bossing, or if you're really fast to kill bosses first. So let's say you are super good at leveling and you get to Atziri really early. Selling Atziri's Promises, it can be really, really profitable because it's a common drop from Atziri, but everyone wants this for their attack builds. Same thing goes with Shaper, especially now, hopefully, Bow League, you know. Dying Sun is going to be a huge damage boost for any projectile build. So getting to Shaper and being able to kill Shaper early can be a really, really good moneymaker for you. Number 5, staying on the somewhat bossing track. Doing lab farming and Uber lab farming. This is boring in my opinion, but it can be really, really profitable if you hit some good enchants. Even if you don't hit some good enchants and get 5 keys every time, you can get really, really good currency, skill gems, and just items from doing Uber Lab over and over again. And you can also take currency. I mean, people pay you currency to carry them through Uber Lab. Even in softcore, people pay you for that service, and especially early in the league. If you're one of the guys who can carry people through Uber Lab in day 2, people are going to pay 10, 15 chaos for that service, especially in hardcore. So that's something to look out for. We don't really know how the meta is going to look right now, but some enchants that were super profitable before was Tornado Shot, has always been profitable. That's nerfed now, however, so that's not going to be as profitable to get. But there's always going to be enchants that are going to be super, super expensive, and you can make a lot of currency on them. And if you're going for this, try to buy twice enchanted prophecy. Or if you've done the prophecy methods, as I mentioned earlier in the videos, keep your twice enchanted prophecies until you're doing Uber Lab farming, so you can enchant your helmets twice. And make sure you look out for what helmets people are using. So say Synthesis, it was an energy shield meta. So you could have a Hubris Circlet in your stash. So every time you do Uber Lab, you enchant your Hubris Circlet and try to get, like I got Molten Strike 2 projectiles, which were insane then. So that's going to be a really good way to make money. So farming divination cards in specific maps where divination cards drop can be a really good money earner. And you want to focus on divination cards that aren't super rare. Like farming the doctor, if you get a doctor, it's going to be huge profits. But you can also run 400 maps without getting a single doctor, and then you're going to be really sad. So I would recommend farming divination cards that are not super common, because they're not worth anything, and not the extreme cases, like the Doctor, House of Mirrors, stuff like that. Don't try to go for those cards. Some cards I would recommend is the Saint's Treasure, which drop from alleyways. It's a linear map. It's easy to farm. The boss is easy, and the card isn't super rare. I farmed a couple last league, and I got probably a 10 stack in like 100 maps or something like that. So that's a good card to farm. Also, if you want to go for doctor cards, I would recommend farming the Nurse, which drops in the tower. So I would try to farm these cards. You could also farm the Rigwood's Quiz cards from Lair. That's also a good card to farm. It's not incredibly rare, so you'll get a couple when you're doing it. I like the incremental gain of currency here rather than the insane gain when you get like a doctor card. Number 3, and that is something that ties in really well to divination card farming, and that is quantity farming. So quantity farming is when you stack a lot of quantity on your gear. So let's say you're using Sadima's Touch. These are Legacy Sadima's Touch. You can get up to 10% quantity here. And Gold Worms, which can get, let's see, yeah, they can still get up to 20% quantity. And you can also get like Ventor's Gambles, you can get Bisco's Collar, you can get Bisco's Leash. So you try to stack quantity as much as you can, but still try to get your resistances good and your life decent as well. You don't want to die all the time. And this will increase the drops of everything in the map. So except from like, say in Blight, the chests didn't give you more items just because of quantity. Same in Legion, like the chests didn't give you more items because of quantity, but mobs will drop more items. So increasing the chance of getting a Doctor card, getting a Nurse card, getting a Saint's Treasure, getting an Exalt, getting 6 sockets is going to be a huge part of your currency gain when quantity farming and selling them for Euler's orbs. And stuff like that can be really good. If you're doing quantity farming, try to go for lower tier maps, since they're much faster to kill, and like pure Exalts is going to be quite a big part of your income there. And also try to be playing a build that's really fast. Like Tornado Shot was super popular before. That is partly because of the Wind Ripper, which gave you additional quantity if you shattered the enemy. So I think like Ice Shot is going to be a good farmer this league, and stuff like that. Number 2. So this is one of my favorite ways of making money, and you can make a hell lot of money in this way. I had a hard time finding any examples of gear which you can do this with, just because I sell the gear and make money from it. I found one pair of boots that illustrates what I'm going to talk about, and that is buying items with open prefix or open suffix, and they're not crafted. So people list items, like in the dump tab, which they think aren't good, but the item can still have like an open prefix, which makes the item really good. So, for example, a pair of boots, everyone wants movement speed. Even if you're using like Whirling Blades, Flame Dash, you're using Leap Slam, you're using Smoke Bind, you want movement speed on your boots. So searching for a pair of boots with high life, high resistance, without movement speed, but with an open prefix, can lend that you get a pair of boots which are like insanely good, and you can just craft movement speed, and you lose like 7%, 6 or 7% movement speed, and you're gonna have a really good pair of boots. Like these pair of boots, I know I needed Dex for the build, so there were Dex, there were 91 resistance, 72 life, and an open prefix so I could craft movement speed. I bought these pair of boots for like 3 Chaos Orbs at the time in the league, and I could probably sold them for a couple of Exalts, like straight away just crafting movement speed on them. You can also find this with weapons, like physical like one-handed swords, which have like a tier 1 attack speed roll and maybe a flat fizz or a percent fizz, but with an open prefix you can craft the other one that is missing on that item, and you can get an insanely good item because people aren't looking at their items, and you can just buy them and craft them and use them or sell them again. So this is like a good way to make money, and it's also kind of fun. It feels like a treasure hunt looking at Potrade and trying to find these gems in the rough. Number 1. Okay, so for this one, this is the absolute best way, in my opinion, to make money, and that is league mechanic. If you're one of the first guys or girls that learn the league mechanic and learn what to do, how to do it, to make currency or to find specific items, like Sigurd in Delve figured it out first, one of the first ones at least, made insane amounts of money from selling fossils and getting like the special fossils and selling that. Learning how the synthesis crafting mechanic worked, people doing that made insane amounts of money, and the pattern repeats itself. It was the same in Legion. The first ones doing Glacier made shit ton of money. The first one that realized how you could clear the 4-way Legion, the 5-way Legion with like full clearing that made a shit ton of money, could carry people, and people paid like 3x to get carried through that, and they got the loot. So he made like 3x every 10 minutes. So learning a league mechanic and really learning it in depth, not just, oh, I kill the mobs and they drop stuff, but learning how it works, that can net you a hell of a lot of money, but it will also take time, and it will take some skill to learn how you do that. Okay, that concludes my ways of making money. I'm gonna play solo self on hardcore this league, so that is the reason I'm sharing all this with you. I'm not gonna be competing for currency this league. So this is all my tips. If you have any other tips for how to make currency, or I mean, there's now thinking about it, there's a couple of other ways you can also make currency, but those involve risk. So like investing currency, figuring out the meta can be a really good way to make money. Like buying items before people actually start using them can be a really good way. Also investing in currency. Last league I bought ancient orbs for 4 chaos each on like day 3, I think. It was quite late in the league. A week later I sold them for 44 chaos each. So in that time I bought 10, I think. So I 10 times my currency in a week. So stuff like that, looking at the currency market as well, can make you a lot of money, but that's also kind of boring. It's kind of boring to just sit there and look at the currency market, and trading currency is a way to make money, like trading jewelers back and forth. You buy them a bit cheaper than you sell them, you make 2 chaos each trade. That's not enjoyable for me. Okay, I'm gonna end the video there, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I wish you all the best luck in Metamorph.